On this week's show, longtime sports memorabilia collector and entrepreneur Ken LeBlanc and three-time All-Canadian soccer player Karlene Milson. What an amazing journey it's been, Ken. You're mentioning before we went on camera that 30 years ago you came into the studios here, the old studios, to film Sports Monday with Gare Maxwell and Al Power. But maybe just discuss your journey into sports and your earliest recollection of getting into the sports memorabilia business.
Sure. I mean, I think like most little Canadian boys, mom and dad put me in hockey. Dad says I was 2 years old. I don't really remember. I just remember kind of on the old blades where you tie to your boots and pull me around with a scarf. And I guess I was like 2 years old when I first started playing hockey, and just fell in love with the sport. I started playing organized hockey when I was 4 years old in Dieppe. Grew up in Dieppe minor hockey system. Back in the day, there was only one provincial team, and everyone else played house league, so I was fortunate enough to play in the provincial team all the way up right through high school. So got me into hockey. I was a hockey kid growing up. Summertime, I played ball. When the snow would fly, you put on the skates and played hockey. It wasn't a 12-month thing like it is nowadays, but really enjoyed it, loved it. Couldn't wait for the fall season to start up again and get on the ice. And then the collecting side of it, the hobby side of it, I remember early, probably my early days of playing hockey, buying that first pack of Peachy hockey cards and getting a little pink stick of gum in there and doing like every little kid did, put them in your bikes in the summertime, the spokes to make the motorbike sign, or throw them up against the wall against your buddy and just beat the crap out of the cards. The Gretzky rookies, you just see the dollars flying nowadays when you know how it's become such a huge industry today. So.
Well, you talk about the industry. Ken, you've experienced it really on both sides. How controversial is it? How competitive is sports memorabilia collecting and the business side of that?
Yeah, it's evolved. I mean, I seen the whole, from hobby, I would call it, where people just trade and collect for the love of the sport. I like this player, you like that player. There was no value, no monetary value on the individual items. Around the late 80s, early 80s or so, they started monetizing items, cards, autographs, things like that. And that's when it kind of switched, and to me there's kind of two worlds. There's a hobby collector world, which I probably put you into the category, and then there's an investor type of, still a collector, but more of an investor, a prospector, someone who's thinking that this certain player may end up being a future Hall of Famer and hoarding a bunch of those cards. I mean, I look at the hobby today, it's gone so extreme into the what I call investor era that I don't know how young kids like you and I were back in the day can even afford to buy a pack of cards now. Now they do have, the card companies have been smart, and they do have all the various entry-level cards that anyone can play and get involved in regards to buying and purchasing. But the real hobby, the business side of the hobby, I mean, there's cards worth hundreds of thousands of dollars right now of players who've never even played, a game in the NHL or the NBA or Major League Baseball that's sitting in Walmart. You crack a pack and you literally could have a $100,000 card in one pack. So it's gone quite a ways from the day of, like I said, pulling out a nice Ken Dryden or a Gretzky card for a quarter type of thing.
How rewarding was it getting into business and really supporting the community that way, and a community need at that time? There were only two shops in the greater Moncton area at that point. What was that like for you, and did that lead you into the business world?
Yeah, you know what it did? Great question, Craig, because I got into collecting as a hobby. It was something for me to do. I've always been an entrepreneur, so kind of a wheeler dealer type of guy. So to me, it just made perfect sense when the hobby evolved, like I said, in the late '80s, early '90s, into a quasi business. It just really made sense for me to kind of get into that industry. Learned a ton. I mean, lost a lot of money. And you know what? That's how you learn a lot, best lessons in life sometimes, or by failing. So I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun running my own card shop, Sports Cards Plus on Mountain Road back in the day. But the best part, I guess the most rewarding part was like you said, the community part. Having the kids come in, the friendships I made lifetime friendships. Funny story, I play gentlemen's hockey still today, and enjoy that. Got picked up to play in a tournament this past winter, and I'm playing out there, and one of the guys he's a man now. One of the guys in my line was like, hey, it looked familiar. I can't remember where I saw him from. It was a kid that used to come into my card shop, and this was like, we're talking 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So it was a kid that used to buy, come in after school and spend his allowance on some cards, and now I'm playing hockey on the ice with him in a beer league. So it was really cool how that all evolves, right?
Well, you talk about the evolution. Where do you see the evolution of collecting going from this point on? And when you're looking at authentic autographs, and there's so many fraudulent, if someone was getting into the business now and getting into collecting,
right,
what's some advice that you would give them?
First, where do I see the hobby evolving? I mean, I see it really taking off in regards to basketball, in regards to soccer, things that don't interest me, but I know the hobby is very, very interesting, and primarily because of having access to all those sports online, access to those players in regards of following them nowadays, and then just the fact that over in China and all over in Europe right now, it's ginormous, and so I see that part of the hobby evolving into the card collecting. I know it's what Gary V talks about. That's where he's investing a lot of his money. These one-of-one cards are pulling out that I was referring to that could be in a pack at Walmart. So I see it evolving there. I think that's going to be short-lived, and by I mean that 2 to 3 years, a little window where people just speculate and invest a lot of money. They're gonna, you think I lost money in the 90s on my $20 pack cards? Well, they're spending literally thousands of dollars a pack now for a card, so there'll be a lot of people lose money. The stuff that I think will always stay salt in the hobby is what I call the blue chippers, the vintage players, the vintage cards. You talked briefly on the autographed memorabilia, things like that, I think. And here's why I think as we get older, and then the next generation, our kids will want to relive our childhood through them, and they'll want to learn about the players that we watched, growing up, the players that we collected. I even find myself now going back and collecting baseball players from the 90s. They're cheap. I can pick them up, but I can get a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, right? I didn't have it in my collection because over the time, you sell those things over time, but you can go back and pick them up, and you're just kind of reliving that moment where where you were hunting for that card in the pack. So yeah, but the autograph stuff, I mean, a lot of people ask me that because I dealt in a lot of autographed memorabilia, whether it's entertainment or sports, and they always said, can you certify that autograph? I'm like, unless I've physically seen the person sign it, that's the only way to 100% guarantee in your own mind that it's authentic. Now, there's tons of reputable companies like Upper Deck and Great White North, and companies that will say yes, there's a certified sticker on the back of that, and what they call a CEO or CO, or what is it, the certificate of authenticity. Right. They put on the back of the cards or the back of the pucks and the photos, and it gives someone peace of mind. But unless you were physically there, there's no guarantee. There's really no guarantee.
The guarantee when you're going out to collect or going out to get an autograph, how exciting was that for you to meet some of these superstars and past idols and heroes, really?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, as a memorabilia collector, I was always in awe of these players, and I wasn't the guy who would shove the piece of paper or the rookie card in front of me. I'd rather just go up to them and meet them and shake their hand. So I probably missed out on a lot of opportunities, a lot of autographs over my life, only because I just didn't feel right asking for an aught. I mean, as you get older and you get a little more comfortable with yourself, a little more confident, then grabbing. I just recently met Wayne Gretzky, so wow, my childhood idol. So to have the opportunity to sit with him, grab a quick photo, and sign a puck. It was under a 5-minute meeting, but it was something I really, really enjoyed, and had the pleasure of, snapping a photo with him and getting a signed puck. I remember my very first autograph. It's funny you bring that up. It was Johnny Bower. the late great Johnny Bauer from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I had a puck, and he was actually in town in Moncton here scouting for the St. John Maple Leafs. He was looking at Felix Potvin back in the day when he was playing for the St. John's Maple Leafs, yeah, the junior team in the HL. And everyone was talking that there's Johnny Bauer. They're pointing him up in the stands, and he's sitting there, and I go up with my little puck, and just palms are sweating. I'm Mr. Bauer, do you mind having an autograph? He come right over, kid. He basically sat right beside him, signed the puck, and he was talking about Potvin. It's kind of sharing that story there. So, just really cool. And that's kind of what got me into autograph collecting at that point.
Now, you brought some of your prized possessions.
Well, I wouldn't say prized possession. I think here's what happens, Craig, for me anyways, in collecting, and it's a bit of a hoarding issue, but you really have to, I believe, you really have to specialize in certain things. So I specialize, and it's not really specializing, but I collect Toronto Maple Leaf memorabilia, huge Leaf fan. Good thing we signed Marner. Team Canada stuff, and I think the reason why the Team Canada stuff came into play is because as a Leaf fan, being so bad and not watching playoffs, I had to watch something else after. So I got into the Team Canada stuff, and baseball. I'm putting together a series of autographed baseballs from the 500 Home Run Club, and then obviously my idol Wayne Gretzky. So those are kind of the four areas. If I buy anything or pick up anything, it'd be one of those four areas. So, and then I brought a few pieces to show you. So this is a Team Canada piece from Sidney Crosby.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. This is kind of cool. This is again back to the Toronto Maple Leafs. This is what's called a slice of the ice. So when they shut down the old Maple Leaf Gardens, they melted the ice, and fanatics like myself would purchase pieces like that. And so they're a piece of water now, but a slice of the ice they call it. I talked briefly of the autographed baseballs. This is part of my home run club. It's
Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle, yeah, Mantle autographed ball. What do we have in here? I thought I brought a little piece for you because I know you're a big Bruins fan. But
Bobby.
What's really cool is, and this is what we talked about earlier about the authenticity of the puck. So this is from his company, and if you look at the back of it, it has a little hologram and a corresponding number that would be on that puck, where you can go online and see that, okay, this is the date it was signed and all those fun things. So. And this is something that's really, it's quite new, but I thought
I'll just pocket that.
Yeah, no worries. This is new. This is what's really happening in the industry right now. So we talked about earlier about me throwing my cards against the wall and putting them in spokes. People think if they have an older card, it's worth a lot of money, but unless it's in really good condition, and this is a Beckett 10, 10 out of 10. So this is Austin Matthews, my guy, Austin Matthews, his rookie card. That card, ungraded, is worth about $200. Graded's probably close to $1,000. So just by slabbing it and having a professional grade that card and making sure that card's in mint condition, it's worth almost 5 times more, which is crazy to think about it.
Wow.
A guy like Wayne Gretzky's rookie cards, $700. So here's a guy who really hasn't done anything yet. I love the guy, but he really hasn't done anything yet, and he's worth more than the greatest hockey player of all time. But that's just a small sample. You go into baseball or basketball, and like I said, there's rookie cards worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Oh, there's that Johnny Bauer puck I was talking about.
Wow,
earlier.
the first.
Yeah, the very first ever.
And there's so many stories, Ken, with regards to collecting and so many memorable moments in the collecting world. How has that helped you get into the business world, a very successful entrepreneur, and giving back to the community within the sporting community as well?
Yeah, well, I think early on, like I said, just learning some basic business principles. Obviously cash flow and things like that were very, very important. Inventory, all those little things that, just running a little hobby shop you wouldn't think would come into play. HR, hiring people, customer service, sales, marketing. I mean, and then expanding from that, because I got into not just having my card shop, but promoting card shows. I brought in Bobby Hull, Maurice Richard, Daryl Sittler, so brought in some legends into the city, organized Atlantic Canada Fan Fest, where we had a sports card show, and then a bunch of the local communities, the sports like the high schools and minor hockey and baseball would have little booths where they can kind of recruit and show what was available into those sessions. So had the ability to put that all together. So just organizing that and having that whole structure really serves me well now into my company, Property Guys, where, started here in Moncton, built this local company, and then had the ability to franchise it out now into the U.S., Australia, all over Canada, right? So it's just things you learn, the basic principles you learn from something as small as a little hobby shop, customer service, things like that you learn that just instill with you as you go forward.
Well, thanks so much for this, Ken, and continued success in everything that you do. You're a great businessman, but an even better friend.
Well, thank you.
Ken.
I really appreciate it, Craig.
Karlene, what's your earliest recollection of playing soccer?
I started playing soccer in junior high in grade 9. I tried out for the junior high boys team because there was no girls team to try out. So myself and another friend, we said, let's try out for the guys team.
Wow. What was that like at that stage, the middle school age, and playing and competing with the boys at that stage of your life?
Well, again, soccer was brand new to me. I just liked sports. I liked being active, so I didn't know a whole lot about the game.
You'd never played before that?
I'd never played before, no. I just jumped on the field and kind of learned as I went, and I played out. I wasn't a keeper back then. I just could run. I was really fast, so I could keep up with the boys, I guess.
Everyone has a mentor in sport, and soccer is no different. Who was your mentor that really showed you the way early on and really got you and propelled you into a 3-time All-Canadian at the university level?
So in soccer, I would have to say it would have to be a combination between my coach from UMB, which was Miles Pinsent, and the male, my counterpart goaltender at the time, Mike Green, who was an Australian keeper from Australia that was playing for the men's side. And I spent a lot of time working with him, and he was an amazing goaltender. And I don't know, I just spent time with them. That's where I spent a lot of my university time, was actually practicing with the men's squad and working with him one-on-one. And he really kind of helped shape me into the keeper I became, I guess.
When did you realize that soccer was your thing, your passion? When did you realize that?
That's an interesting question, because if it was basketball to begin with. I was a basketball player to start. Soccer came later. I played in high school, and my coach in high school kind of took me aside and said, okay, why don't you come out and play for a provincial team, which again back then was, you didn't really know what that was all about. So I came out, and I liked it. He kind of threw me in the net and thought, hey, I think this is a spot for you, and it was fun. It was fun to jump around. I had a little bit of natural agility, I guess, is what kind of put me in that spot as a keeper. So that played a part in it, and I don't know, the rest it was fun.
Now, the Eastern Conference High School, that was fairly new. That was only 5 years in when you started playing, and Judy Votor and some really groundbreaking mentors in the sporting world kind of created the Eastern Conference at that time. How did that propel you and finally being able to play with women? And that had to be a big boost for you, having to play with the boys, and what was that like? Yeah,
so I think women's soccer, just in general, has grown so much. You see how it's propelled, but it's interesting, the whole, the high school. When I remember going to high school, and there's a soccer team, why don't you come out and play? And again, I only had a year under my belt of playing, so sure, let's jump into that. And then you kind of find the history out of how women's soccer really didn't exist a whole lot at the high school level back then. It was really brand new, and you wouldn't know it, playing. But I look back at it now and you think of how much the game has developed. Like, it's such a game of skill now, and women's soccer is really, I think, the finesse of it. Like, it's, it wasn't like that when it started. It was, basically some athletes that got out on a field and played because they loved to play sports, and then it grew from there.
You go from being thrust into the sport and then arguably into the most difficult position to play is keeper. It has to be.
Yeah, I guess it's the back line. It's the final spot. I don't know if it's the most difficult position to play. Again, it's a fun position to play. There's nothing more rewarding than. And again, I had some agility that kind of helped things out a little bit, but there's nothing more enjoyable than kind of flying through the air and catching a ball. So that's what held me into that position for so long.
How difficult is it to play? And really, you're the leader on the field. You see everything unfold. How difficult is it to relay that information to your teammates, but also have the fine line of, you don't want to be a taskmaster, so to speak, but you need to be a leader in that position. And like you just said, it's the last line of defense.
Yeah, I think from my university days, anyways, I can say I had some strong teammates that really, I think having confidence in me in that position allowed me to be able to. Because every role is different on a soccer field, right? And it's a team sport. Like, you can't do someone else's job out there. And so your teammates having confidence in you allows you to be able to make comments, say things, and you're right. Like, back there, I see the whole field. Like, my understanding of where the ball is going to go, like, they knew that I knew that information. So sharing that information, again, knowing that they had confidence in me, is what made that such an easier job to do. I don't know if that would have been the same if they didn't have confidence in me, if I would have been able to be vocal. And I wasn't the most vocal keeper. That's something that came with a lot of practice. As you know, Craig, I'm not a big talker, and I'm not a loud person, but I'm a different person on a soccer field. And my teammates would attest to that. I was pretty quiet to start, but with a lot of hard work and some people that believed in me and some coaches that spent time with me. I developed, because I really started as kind of just a raw athlete, and then I became a soccer player.
Became an amazing soccer player, a tremendous journey in the game. But what did it mean to you personally to have the opportunity to go play university at the university level? But here's the thing. It wasn't sanctioned. You were a club team to begin with, which that had to be difficult to comprehend at that time.
It was challenging. Like, my first 4 years, my first degree at university was, most people go and that's their career, that's their university career, and mine didn't start then. I mean, I still have 2 years of eligibility. I can go back and play for 2 years. I won't. But, yeah, so we, as a club team, we started as Yo Women is what we were, and it was a club team that existed long before I arrived, and we'd play exhibition games against other universities that were sanctioned teams, and they enjoyed playing against us. We were good competition for them, which really made our first year, our inaugural season, pretty sweet, because myself and some other players made the decision to come back and be a part of that experience and be a part of that first women's soccer team. And we had a very successful season, probably largely due to the fact that we weren't, young 18, 19-year-olds stepping on the pitch for the first time. We were actually like 22, 23 as a young squad, all rookies stepping on the field, and had a pretty good season our first year.
Giving back to the game, you've coached a number of years, and then getting into the teaching world. How rewarding has teaching been to you, and what's next for Karlene Milson?
Oh, well, teaching is my love, as you know. I love teaching. I love coaching. Probably the reason I got into teaching was to be a coach, and I did that for many years. I coached. I loved coach. I love people put in time and effort in for me, and I love being able to do the same thing. And I think that's what I get out of teaching, in whatever role or capacity I'm doing that in, is just being able to give back to other people. What's next soccer-wise? I'm still playing, as long as they'll let me keep playing. So I'm trying to keep at it, and we'll see how that goes.
Well, it's been a tremendous journey, both on the pitch and in the classroom. Karlene, thanks so much for coming in today and sharing your journey.
Thanks.